Contra 1987. Contra 1987 really changed the way games were made back in 1987. The crushing difficulty, the amazing design and sound work, it was truly something else. However, it wouldn't be much without the influences of some very popular film franchises. Bill, the Blue Guy, is modeled after Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator 1987, and Lance, the Red Guy, is modeled after Sylvester Stallone in Rambo First Blood Part 2, 1985. Super Contra 1988. Even a game like Super Contra just couldn't avoid controversy. The game's NES port was deemed too violent in Europe upon its release and was heavily censored. They essentially changed the main character and other human-looking enemies to robots. Characters remained human in other European releases, which was a massive disappointment for fans who were looking to enjoy Contra at its fullest on their NES consoles. Operation C, 1991. The one thing most people don't know about the Contra franchise is that it has always remained very much available on every platform and in every country. Operation C is one of the prime examples of this. There were a total of 5 versions of this game released. The original Japanese version, an American version, a European version, a version included in the Japanese release Konami GB Collection Volume 1, a compilation of older Game Boy games with full Super Game Boy support for each game, and another version for the European release of Konami GB Collection Volume 1. Contra 3: The Alien Wars, 1992. Contra 3 is where Konami started to take a lot of influence from their other games and learning from their previous mistakes. The rolling turrets at the start of the third stage are similar to the Ducker enemies from the Gradius series, which was also created by Konami, whereas the Brain boss bears a striking resemblance to the Golem boss from Salamander, another video game from Konami. Contra Force, 1992. Contra Force was the first time in the series that they brought in a completely new mechanic, which was never possible before. You play as the same characters of Bill and Lance from the first game, up until Contra 3 Alien Wars. However, Contra Force is the first time you can have more than 2 playable characters. Contra Hardcore, 1994. Contra has always been a very patriotic series, and what better game to showcase it than Contra Hardcore? The background music that plays during the final boss battle of each path is named Last Springsteen. This is a reference to the American artist Bruce Springsteen, who is nicknamed The Boss. Therefore, Last Springsteen is interpreted as Last Boss, and also because Springsteen is the guy behind Born in the USA. Contra Legacy of War, 1996. While Contra wasn't a franchise most notable for the best storytelling, Contra Legacy of War did pertain some story aspects that were introduced in Operation C and followed up by Contra Force. The events of Contra Force are considered canon in this game's timeline, as stated in the game's manual. Contra Force's events are placed shortly after those of Operation C. Its placement is convenient, as there are no conflicting plot details. C. The Contra Adventure, 1998. Contra's main trait has always been about hitting your shots. You can be the best at avoiding damage, but if you can't kill the competition, you're bound to lose. C. The Contra Adventure was the first game to introduce aim lock in the series, a move that reappears in the PS2 titles and the GBA port of Contra 3. However, it isn't perfect in this game, as you can't lock the aim vertically up. Contra Shattered Soldier, 2002. It had been a while since Contra had been thrown out of the jungles, though perhaps that was for the best, as that theme had gotten stale after the first few games. However, Shattered Soldiers brought us back to the Contra jungles. The 5th stage, Archipelago, is an obvious reference to the Galuga Archipelago of the original Contra. It even uses a remake of the classic jungle theme. Neo Contra, 2004. Neo Contra was truly a meta game in its time, and it did shake up the way things were looking for a while. This was the first game in the franchise to have an actual, truly realistic fourth wall break. At the beginning of Stage 2, the player character breaks out through a monitor. That monitor showed the opening scene to Stage 2 of Contra Shattered Soldier, where Bill Reiser broke through a Lance Beam propaganda billboard. Contra 4, 2007. Contra 4 was taking the franchise back to its roots, and it did everything it could to pay homage to the games we had come to love over the years. The helicopter you drop from at the start of level 1, which assists you throughout the game, is based off the one in NES Super C, which you also drop off from in the first level. Contra ReBirth, 2009. Contra ReBirth was truly anime at its finest in gaming. The character Brownie, Sugerman, bears a striking resemblance to Drossel von Flugel, the gynoid duchess from the Fireball anime series. Additionally, notice the death animation for Brownie, as a flower appears to rise out of it. This may be a reference to the expression pushing up daisies, in referencing someone who has died. Contra Evolution, 2010. Contra's always been a franchise that constantly provides every platform with its own versions so that they can experience the game at their fullest capacity. There are two variants of Contra Evolution for iOS devices. One variant, Contra Evolution, supports all iOS-based devices. The other, Contra Evolution HD, is exclusive to iPad tablets and features high-definition graphics, among other minor upgrades. Hardcore Uprising, 2011. Hardcore Uprising is a long way away from the original game, and it showcases how far the franchise had truly come since its conception. However, Contra has still never forgotten its roots. If you enter the Konami code during the loading screen before the first level, the level's background music will change to a rendition of the classic jungle theme. Contra 2028, 2018. Despite being a completely fan-made game, Contra 2028 garnered the respect of the entire world with its release in 2018. Sure, the game was a bit clunky, but that is due to one fact. This game was made in under 6 weeks by a game designing student as a project. It is the first and only game in the franchise to be made on Unreal Engine 4 and is by far the most unique game in the series. Contra Rogue Core, 2019. Contra Rogue Core is the latest addition in the franchise, and it is by far the first real example of the truly next-generation version of Contra. This is the actual equivalent of a classic Contra Adventure for the modern generation of consoles and PC. It's the only game in the franchise that was fully developed from the ground up for the Xbox One, PS4, Nintendo Switch, and Microsoft Windows.